Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to this special presentation, and thanks for joining us. The session run by ProTrade United is 8 ways to generate consistently high profits on every job. And considering that we're targeting trade and construction business owners, it's a very popular discussion topic when we're working with our clients. So thanks for joining us. It's going to be a great session ahead. So my name's John Mailer. That's me in the photo. I'm working from my home office here on the Sunshine Coast this evening. So I'm pretty relaxed, and so should you be. So relax and sit back for the next sort of 50 minutes or so. The key thing, if you're a regular webinar user, you'll know how this session will run. If you're here for the first time, good on you for taking on the technology of being able to learn from the comfort of wherever you are. Some of you may be still working and traveling home in your vehicles. If you're pulled up at home, terrific stuff. Be open and take some notes along the way. We're going to be covering off on quite a fair bit of information. So take notes on what you feel is relevant for you to be able to implement into your business. And when I present some ideas on some concepts, my goal is not to tell you things that you already know. It's to challenge the way you're doing things in your business. And ideally, that's why you're on tonight's session. Be present if you can, switch off as much other technology that you have on around you. You're going to get a recording of the session. So if you do want to revisit any of the key points that we discuss or share them with other people in your business or other people that you care about, you'll be able to do so as well. And I'm also going to give you an opportunity to participate, because as we go through the session tonight, it's not just a monologue and it's you listening to me. I want to give you an opportunity to share what you're learning, and also if you have any questions along the way, how I may be able to help you with that as well. So if you're in a session for the first time with ProTrade United, let me give you a little bit of context around who we are and how we position ourselves and work with clients in the trade and construction space. So we've been established now for 3.5 years, and we are Australia's #1 advisory and coaching organisation supporting the trade and construction business community nationally. So our head office is in Brisbane. We are operational in Melbourne, and we also deliver to clients around the country, as far west as Perth in WA, as far north as Cairns in far north Queensland, and also down to Tassie, as well as a number of regional areas in between that as well. And we work to help with business owners to do one of three things primarily. Number one, to stabilize and streamline their operations, which gives them consistency of income, profit, and cash, which then gives you choice, and you get, I guess, a greater level of choice around how you want to take your business. For those of you who want to scale and grow your business, whether that's the number of projects you have, the number of vans you have on the road, number of teams, how do you do that profitably? Because if you've tried to grow before, you can understand that it also takes cash and profit with it. And maybe you're at a stage in your business journey where you want to step out of your business, step off the tools, step back a bit, choose a role in the business that may be less physically demanding, possibly pass the business on to a younger generation, which could be to manage that buyout process or succession plan. And that's really how we tie into working with the trade and construction community. But understandingly, it's to help them become real professionals of their craft. Not just professionals of their trade, but become trade professionals as well. And here's an example of some of our clients, really great, hardworking, enthusiastic, passionate people about their industry. 30 to 40% of our clients are couples as well. So if you're a couple in business, I can speak straight to you tonight as well. And there's plenty of those that we work with along the way. Here's your little control panel, and this is your opportunity to interact tonight as well on your right-hand side. It's an opportunity to tap in and ask any questions along the way. And if I give you an opportunity to raise your hand, here's what I'd like you to do today is just raise your hand and click the hi button. and possibly say hi John, tell me where you're coming from or which part of the country that you're in listening to this session tonight. So I can see some hands going up already, which is terrific, and communicating and connecting with where you're coming from as well. So feel free at any stage to ask some questions, make some comments, agree, disagree, whatever you'd like to share along the way. So far I can see we've got, Greg on there. We've got Greg, Matthew, Nicholas, thanks, Clive, Marco, Lloyd, Nick, beautiful, Buzziar, Dane, Marlene, Scott, Rory, listen, and the list is going on. So we've got quite a number on the session today. So good on you for being here and dedicating some time along the way to work on your business. So here's what I'd like to do to get started with, you're obviously on this session for a reason. And just to be sure that we're all on the same page, I'd love you to share what is your biggest challenge about consistent profits in your business at the moment. What do you come up with regularly in your business that you find challenging, particularly around consistency as well? And for those of you, thanks Mirko from Rosanna for sharing in. Craig from Murray Bateman, beautiful. Tennant Creek, Northern Territory, good on you, Alana and Nicholas. Well done on the far north there as well, and Tristan's there in Melbourne. So a great diverse range so far on the call, and I'll give you an update as we continue on. So as we're going, here, what I'd like you to do is type into your comments area, what is the biggest challenge that you face consistently, or what are you dealing with at the moment that is causing you challenges in creating consistent profitability with your projects, with your team, with your jobs? Love you to just type in some answers there, and I will love to read them out. I'll give you a couple of more seconds to go. Good on you. So what we've got here is Craig's got developing his sales funnel. Rory says time management. We can all relate to that. Quoting and time management from Tristan. John, he's there from Claremont, Queensland. G'day, John. Staff underquoting jobs, says Greg. Are there any estimating services connected with ProTrade? Listen, Joey, I'd love to share with some opportunities later on as well. Yes, we do align ourselves with a couple of job management software companies that also help with estimating there as well. Staff not following the processes. There's Nicholas, finding staff with perform high quality work. So that's the team there, Elliot. Good day, Penny and Peter and Jenny from Cobram, Northern Victoria. Good to have you here. Jason's out west in Perth. And Moko's got, struggling to get into tendering, to get some connections. And systemizing the business. So what I get from all of that when I ask that question is that all of you are connected and related in some way. We all experience the same things in business, whichever size that you're in and whichever industry that you play in as well. So I'll address some of those in our session tonight. Now, the reality is that business is not an easy game. It doesn't get any easier. However, you can get better. And Jim Rohn, one of my favorite business philosophers, keeps things so simple. He says, don't wish life or business was easier, just wish you had better skills. How do you become better? And the reality is the things that you're dealing with now in business today that you found challenging 2 or 3 years ago can be a walk in the park. So what we like to look at ProTrade is really, is it the toolkit, the business tools, or is it the person? And you can imagine, working in your business that there's a certain element of skill and then there's a certain element of attitude as well. And what we find is that at ProTrade, we can give you the toolkit. There are dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of different tools, templates, blueprints, resources that we have available and we provide for our clients. Yet if you're not prepared to take them on or not prepared to change yourself, then we've got the real challenge. And so the question I have for you in your business and with your challenges, is it your lack of tools or is it you? Now, it's pretty simple, but it's not necessarily easy. And to give you an example, what we like to work with clients before we work through all the tools, and I tell you what, on this session tonight, we've got truckloads of ways that you can address your consistency of profitability. But there's a key here that we like to work with our clients on, and understanding that you create and you get to choose the reality that you live in within your business and your life. And the key thing here, there's 3 simple steps, is learning how to value yourself, telling the whole truth about the situation and the business to yourself, and then taking on 100% responsibility for whatever shows up in your business. So valuing yourself, when you value yourself, well, let's look at the opposite. When you don't value yourself, what I tend to see is that people don't market their business effectively. They take on clients that they don't really want to do work for. They don't charge accordingly. They don't follow up on quotes. They don't get back to clients or customers quickly. When the job's being done, they don't value their time enough, and so they tend to do more work than they quoted for. They miss the odd variation here and there. They tend to cop it on the chin. So they don't tell the whole truth about the scenario. They don't really understand how to address the situation. They tend to cover up what's really going on and push and suppress and depress things within themselves. And then they blame, they make excuses, they point the finger versus saying, you know what? It is my business, it is my life. I'm going to take 100% responsibility and respond to the situation. It's pretty simple, but it's not easy. And so the question I have for you, if you really want to change the external aspect of your business and your life, are you prepared to change yourself? It's a bit like, I've just got recently one of the new phones, the new iPhones, and the technology that it has compared to the very first iPhone that I had, going close to 10 years ago now. And the reality is, if you still had an iPhone from 10 years ago, it probably wouldn't operate today because they've continued to upgrade the software. You've still got the hardware. The hardware works all right. It's still packaged well, but the software isn't upgraded, and therefore it won't be as functional. And it's a bit like that, I guess, for yourself. Depending on how old you are and how long you've been in the industry and in your trade, you may physically have a pretty good outside, but is the inside being updated? Are you updating your software? And that's going to be the key. And I'm going to address that a little bit tonight. So before we get into it, I'd love you to adapt the ideas. I get that, we've got trades from all different areas, from builders to plasterers to painters to mechanics to landscape gardeners to plumbers to electricians to tilers to waterproofers, and some of the affiliated services that go with that, from engineering to architects to designers. And I apologize if I haven't mentioned your trade there as well, but you get the drift. And I'd love you to adapt the ideas that we have tonight and suit your business and your target customer. You may work in the residential space, commercial space, industrial space. Again, take it on. Take what you like, leave what you don't as we go. So my assumptions are, before we get started, that you're a master of your craft. You deliver great work. You're a professional of your actions and your behavior. No cowboys, thank you. Value yourself and your work. You're honest with yourself. Sometimes that's not the easy part, and you're up for 100% responsibility for the way your business looks and behaves moving forward. So before we get started into the key aspects on creating consistent profits on each and every job, we want to have a look at the mistakes that people make. And as we go along, what I'd love you to do is just raise your hand along the way, and I won't mention them publicly. However, listen, a couple of things there. We've got Marlene, who said she's in hydraulics, Trish from fire services, beautiful that. And Mirko's nearly 60 years old, so good on you, Mirko, for being on the session. I want to run through the 7 biggest mistakes that I see consistently and we see with our team at ProTrade that people are making when it comes to profitability on jobs. No particular order, but if you go along, raise your hand, and You know, it's not a walk of shame, but hey, listen, I've made these in my business for many, many times. And sometimes you need to make the same mistake several times before you get the lesson. So number one is you aim to please everybody. Now I know on the session there'll be some yes monsters. You're the ones who, you know, say yes to every job that comes along, yes to every request from every client, you know, tend to put yourself last and everybody else first. So the challenge with that is that it is not a profitable way to run your life. Now, when I talk about profit here, I'm talking about what is the return that you're looking to get from being in business. So what is your currency? Is it finances? Is it time with your family and your loved ones? Work out what it is that you want as a return. And when you don't put yourself first, by the way, that's not being selfish. Putting yourself first, you are the asset in your business, in your life. You need to look after yourself. However, if you aim to please everybody all the time, you will drive yourself insane. And I've got a little quote there that pleasing everybody is never a responsibility. If they like you for who you are, great. If it's not your problem, it's theirs. So if you aim to please everyone all the time, it will be a real challenge moving forward to be profitable in the work that you do consistently. You are working with clients that you just don't like. They're non-suitable to you. They whinge, they moan, they complain, they lead you down the garden path, they give you all the indications they're going to buy. You might spend hours doing quotes up for them, and all of a sudden you don't hear from them again. So we need to have a better way of vetting your clients along the way. And they end up costing you not just money, but your energy and your sanity. You don't have a pricing model which is reflective of what you need to charge. Okay, there are ways that we'll address later on how to charge effectively and know that you're doing it profitably. But if you don't have a consistent way to know that you're accurately pricing, you're going to be making mistakes there. Poorly run jobs, and it's a little bit of a corny photo there. However, what I want you to get is that when you're organized, and here's the thing, if you're a builder, or if you're a contractor on this call, you know, whenever I ask who's the ideal contractor, or if you're a contractor, who's the ideal builder you'd like to work for, and they always say someone who is organized, someone who's planned and scheduled, job sites are clean and tidy, and you can get your work done effectively. There's no monitoring of job profits. You know, you can't improve anything that you're not measuring. You know, how can you improve the performance of your business if you don't actually know where it is right now? So therefore, and I'll share with you a bit later on some metrics or measurements that you can start looking at to measure profitability consistently and effectiveness in your jobs. There's no systems or training, and we really call systems a recipe. So you're just hoping that people are doing a great job. You don't have standards in place and have expectations. There's no guidance or structures, no procedures, or even checklists in place to make sure things are being done effectively. And there's no skills training and development. If you want to be a progressive business, part of your business needs to be training and developing others. And the key thing is just doing the same things each and every year. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same things year in year and expecting a different result. Remember, the same old thinking gives you the same old results. I call it the ostrich philosophy. Put your head in the sand and just hope that it'll work out in the end. So, how'd you go? Did you raise your hands? That's okay. I won't mention any names this time around, hey? But good to see you being honest with how you have reflected in your business as well. And the key thing is you can't improve your business if you don't recognize where the improvements lie. So as I said, there's the list of the mistakes. Now, what is not the magic solution? I just want to share a story with you because Paddy and Mick were two Irish fellas who arrived out in the shores of Australia. It was a blazing hot summer. They were backpackers, and they were sitting on the beach and at St Kilda Beach in Melbourne, and they thought, geez, there with all these people, middle of summer, you know, daylight till 10 o'clock at night, there's got to be an opportunity. So they put their Irish brains trust together, and Paddy jumped up and said to Mick, 5 minutes later, he says, I've got an idea, Mick. He says, why don't we go into selling watermelons? He says, you like watermelons, I like watermelons. How about we buy a truck and we go to the markets and we buy some watermelons and we sell them to everyone on the beach? And Mick jumped up and said, what a great idea. So they pooled their resources, bought a rusty old truck, went up to the Victoria markets in Melbourne, and bought a truck full of watermelons. They bought them all for $1 each. And then they raced down to St Kilda Beach, opened at the back, and they had a big sign, watermelons for sale, $1 each. So what was happening is they were buying the watermelons, selling the watermelons, buying them for $1, selling them for $1. And business was booming. And it was a couple of weeks later when, Paddy said to Mick, he said, this was a great idea, but you know what? We've been really busy. We've been working really hard. But I can't work it out. We're not making any money. We're not making any profits. And they thought, scratched their heads, and they thought, well, what should we do? So they sat down, had a cool drink, and then Mick jumped up a couple of minutes later. He said, I've got the solution. We've just got to buy a bigger truck. Sell more, which could be buy another truck, buy 2 trucks. Now, some of you might laugh at the silliness of that, yet I know, and every day, and even there's people on this session who are going out thinking that I'll just get an extra job, I'll just put an extra van on the road, I'll just get a bigger project, and then I'll make some profits. Now, I'm going to guarantee you, if you are not making profit now, another job, another van, a larger project is not the magic solution, and it most possibly will be the same challenges but with more zeros on the end. So if you're turning over $300,000 and you think turning over $600,000 will be the solution, yet you haven't got your profits, your pricing, your efficiencies, your systems, your processes in place, you're going to have the same challenges but with more zeros on the end. I've seen people grow from 300 to 600 to 1.2 to 2.4 to 4.8. I've even working businesses who are doing 8 or 9 million, yet they still face the same challenges, but they've got an extra 2 zeros on the end of them. So sometimes it's not the extra work, it's what's going on behind the scenes. A bigger engine doesn't necessarily mean more profit. So let's just do a quick check-in. What have you found valuable so far? What have you related to? What's come up for you? Before we go into the actual steps that I'm going to share with you, I'm just going to give you a few seconds to type down into the little comment section. What can you relate to? What's been valuable for you? What do you notice that you're doing that you want to stop doing? Or maybe something that you want to start doing, and I'll come back in about 20 or 30 seconds. So we have, Joey's mentioned his pricing strategy. Without change, no results. Says Nick, thanks. Aiming to please everyone. You're not alone with that one. More doesn't equal profit, it equals more pain. Absolutely. Getting better systems in place to check profits on jobs is super, super important there. Being more mindful of testing and measuring and monitoring GP. We'll talk more about that later, Marlene. Yes, being more organized. A better manager rather than owner of the business, taking on jobs I know I shouldn't, poorly run projects, tracking job profitability, says Nicholas. Project the right profit from maverick spending, yep, and doing the training every couple of years is the key. So great work, thanks for your contribution. So we need to reinvent, so let's have a look. We want to shift and change things, and we want to keep it simple. So we're going to run through 8 steps. So number 1, we've got a picture of a man looking in the mirror there, is that your business is a reflection of you. Now, if you don't like what's going on externally, then something needs to shift internally. And we need to own the process. You need to own the results, own the profit or lack of profit, and understand that if something external is to shift, there needs to be an internal shift. So for example, the clients you choose, the price you charge, the hours you work, the employees you hire, the suppliers you use, the profit you make, the company you keep, where you live, etc. The common denominator in each of those statements is you, and you'll get the rest. It's everything. And unless you are prepared to stand up and say, you know what, if things need to change, I need to change, and I've got to work on certain things. So one aspect, I'll give you an example later on. I'll talk about your pricing strategy. I know some of you haven't put your prices up for 2 years. If I have 50 people in a room and I asked openly, how long is it since people have put their prices up? Some will say last week, some will say last month, some will say last quarter, some will say last year. And I know there will be some people who haven't put their prices up for 18 months or more. So everything else is going up, but you're not putting your prices up. And there's all these stories and excuses and reasons and blah, blah, blah. The reality is you can go home and you can go into your office tonight and you could tweak your process. You could put your prices up, all of you, by 5%, 3%, 4%, 10%, some of you. And I know for a fact that if you present yourself professionally, you will not lose any customers. Yet that's the simple part is tweaking your software. But then what are you dealing with? Am I worth it? Will customers still buy from me? What will the competitors say? Will I still win the job? And a heap of stories will go on. And I get all of that. And this is where we work with our clients on to position themselves so that they can be putting up their prices every 6 to 12 months and be in the top 5% of their industry and their trade and make healthy profits and be proud of who they are and deliver great results and build a great business in the process. But you have to be the person who owns it. Yeah, not easy, but if you are up for that, then the rest is going to be easy because that's the most challenging part. Next, what we want to do is set some profit targets. So interestingly enough, when it comes around to the new financial year, we've just had the first quarter, and I ask a business owner, so tell me, how much money are you, what's your goal, what's your objective this financial year? How much would you like to turn over? And then there's usually a gap of about 4 or 5 seconds while I aim to think of a number. And they might say 750,000, they might say 3 million, they might say 500,000, whatever the number is. And I said, just out of interest, how did you get that? What makes you think that is your number? And again, then there's a blank. They think of an answer, and sometimes it's, oh, I just felt good. Oh, it was about 10% more than last year. And by the way, there's nothing wrong or right with not having an income target. I'm not saying that's what it's about. I'm saying, but if you have a target, how are you creating that? So what we like to do with clients is work backwards from the end. Rather than the top down, we want to set profit targets first. So I always say, how much would you like to keep after you've paid a salary to yourself for the market job that you're doing? What's the market rate? And then what are you going to keep as a reward? And what's the profit you want to generate as a reward for taking on the risks of being in business? So we say work backwards from the goal, aim for 15% pre-tax profit, input your cost of goods and your overheads, create your required income and job numbers, and I'm going to show you an example right here. So if in this scenario, the business owner says, well, I'd love to generate $150,000 pre-tax profit after paying myself a salary. So my salary is included in my overheads, or maybe I am on the tools whereby it comes a cost of doing the work. So therefore, we need to create a gross profit, income kept after the cost of doing the work, of $450,000. Now in this business, if they've got a gross profit, and I'm keeping the numbers really simple here, yeah, if they've got a gross profit, which means they keep 45 cents after every dollar of income, therefore they need to generate $1 million. So they need total income of $1 million. They'll keep 450,000, which is their real income. I'm not interested in total revenue, I'm interested in your gross profit. Therefore, their sales income required is $1 million. Now, let's say in this situation, the average job value is $10,000. And again, round figures, keeping it simple. Therefore, they need 100 jobs completed and paid for within the 12-month period. Now, I've kept it really simple tonight. For some of you, that's enough to just get you started. Go and do the numbers for yourself. Some of you have already worked that out, I'm sure. But if you haven't got some basic numbers there, well, then that's where you need to start. Number 3, you need to choose the best customers possible. If you're one of these people who says yes to everyone and every job, then this is for you. Now, when I asked a plumber at a workshop a few years ago, who's the dream customer? The answer came back was anyone with money. So if that's you, listen carefully. Money is important. However, as you know, it is not the most important aspect of your customer. So generally what will happen is if you'll look at every type of job and every type of customer you do, there'll be a smaller end of the market, there'll be a larger end of the market. And in this situation, I asked, who's the smaller end of the market? And he said, oh, we do some work for a community centre, fix some leaking taps, the old block toilet, occasional hot water system needs replacing. And I said, how does that work for you profit-wise? He says, well, they don't like to pay much for a call-out fee, and we sometimes feel like we're doing it as a love job. I said, nothing wrong with that, just be aware. And tell me about the larger jobs. He says, well, I'm currently quoting on a job at the moment to fit out a large office facility. It's about a $300,000 fit out. It's going to be an EBA site. I'm quite stressed already, thinking about it, and I know the margins are going to be pretty lean. I said, nothing wrong, just be aware. I said, who's your dream customer? If I could give you 10 of these tomorrow, who would fit the bill? And he thought about it for a while. And then he said, we did some jobs earlier this year where we worked with a high-end builder who was extremely organized. He was very successful. He'd been in the game a number of years. He actually funded all of his builds. And we did 2 projects for him. He was great to work with. He paid on time. The other trades that we worked with there on site were all as well. That would be it. I said, great. So from now on, that's who you market to. Doesn't mean you don't take on work outside of that whilst you build your portfolio of customers or clients in that space. So we've worked out at ProTrade that the dream customer fits a certain profile. There's 6 P's, so it's pretty easy to remember. Number 1 is they are profitable. What you work is that when you work with the customers who respect you, first and foremost, you have to respect yourself, yeah? If you don't respect yourself, if you don't value yourself, your customers will never do it. So you need to be valuing yourself, and the jobs need to be profitable. The customers or the clients pay on the terms and conditions. You enjoy the work. It's pleasurable to work with these people. They're almost like a silent partner in your business because they refer other jobs to you or other customers to you. There's a pathway of least resistance to the decision maker, so you can get to connect with them and really answer any questions that they may have, particularly if it's larger projects. And this is where tender work. Here's the challenge with tender work is that you very rarely, unless you've got an existing relationship, get a pathway that you can chat to the person who says yes or no. And they're prepared to follow your process. You have a process in place versus saying, no, this is the way we're doing it. If you want to work with us, then you've got to, and you get towed around by the nose. So think about that. Maybe you got 5 of 6. Maybe you're prepared to compromise in an area. But what you want to know is that where do you want to invest your time and your energy moving forward? Because if you're doing work that is not profitable, my question to you is, why are you doing it in the first place? And I know if I ask the question here, who would like to be doing less work for the same or more profit? And I guarantee most people on the call would be putting their hands up. Yep, less work for the same or maybe even more profit. This is where you need to focus your energy. This is Michael. He's one of our clients. He runs a company in Queensland called Livable Landscape. He has a partner in Melbourne who also has a Livable Landscapes down there as well. When we did a lot of work with Michael, starting off with and his partner Stuart, they said yes to everything. It was exciting. Yes, we can do retaining walls. Yes, we can do large developments. Yes, we can do high-end residential. Yes, we can do softs. They said yes to everything because in the early days, that's how they built their business. But after a while, when we sat down and had a look at their numbers, they were trying to be all things to everyone. But we specifically did some work with the Queensland division, and Michael worked out his niche was the high-end residential engineered retaining walls, as you can see in the diagram there, and really bespoke projects where he could be creative, work closely with the customer. His team got plenty of variety, and also he could charge the value of what he was worth and make the profit that he deserved. So that's an example of how we use that 6P formula in the previous slide. So number 4 is, we've got to build perception and trust quickly. Now, what happens is this is a short one, but when you build perception and you build trust quickly, people are prepared to pay more for your services. So, everyone on this session has paid more for something than they originally thought they were going to because they saw value and they trusted the person implicitly. So how do we build perception and trust? You got to respond promptly. Every time you delay, see, business these days is done at the speed of trust. How do you build trust quickly? You respond promptly. You have an online presence. You have collateral, credibility packs, information sheets, letterheads. You give the perception that you're an organized business. You're polite and you're friendly, and all of the team are as well. You produce quotes and proposals in a timely manner. You follow up effectively, and you have a process for all of the above. So if you think about that, the people who build trust the quickest will usually win the work, and you'll be able to do it at a higher margin as well. Next one, and probably the most important part tonight, is how do you price your jobs profitably? So when we do work with our clients, we sit down, we have a look at their whole quoting and pricing process. There's some alarming things that really come up. First and foremost, very few know exactly the cost to employ their team, their total overheads, and their break-even point. And what I mean by that is, do you know the exact cost to keep someone on the tools every day? Now, it's not just their hourly rate, but when you take into account annual leave, public holidays, sick days, weather hold-ups, meeting times, travel time, usually you've got someone who can only be charged out for about 65 to up to 75% of the time. So therefore, the real cost is about hard dollar cost is 1.3 times or 1.35 times the rate that you're actually paying them. You then need to put on top of that an overhead cost. So there's overheads to keep people employed, vehicles on the road, replacing tools, managing the office. So you've got to add an overhead recovery cost to that hourly rate. So when you charge the labor component, how accurately do you know that? And we have a great little calculator that we use at ProTrade here, which will give you that to the dollar and add your profit margin on top. Price for outcomes versus time. In the end of the day, if you can get a job done quicker and more efficiently, then you should not be paid for your time, but you be paid for the outcome that you provide. And again, depending on your business, particularly if you're in service and maintenance, you may want to look at sort of flat rate pricing versus hourly rate pricing. Hourly rate might be good for variations and add-ons, but sometimes you want to get the job done quickly. And whether you're on site for an hour or 2 hours, it shouldn't really matter to the customer. I use it like going to the dentist. If the dentist said, would you like to be sitting in the chair for half an hour or an hour? Everyone ideally would say half an hour. Well, its price is going to be the same. Great, well, let's get it done in half the time. Document all your variations, and one of the aspects we're not going to talk about tonight is making sure you've got all the right contracts in place with your customers. Everything's documented, it's open, it's transparent, people can see. Make sure all variations are documented, signed off on, and the customer is fully aware of the extra prices along the way. Allow for inefficiencies and downtime. Never discount your services. If people say, oh mate, can you do a better rate than that? You say, well, listen, I can, but which part of my materials would you like to compromise on? I can buy some materials at a cheaper price. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be working with customers who are continually bargaining with you. It's draining. You don't feel love in the work. And, there's times to discount, but it's not about trading construction businesses. It's usually about retail times. Review your pricing at least quarterly and increases every 1 to 2 years. Make sure that you're reflective in your material pricing to the added increase that your suppliers are passing on, and also be prepared to walk away. Okay, be prepared to turn away when people don't value who you are. Make sure, and this is just a little point here, the big difference between markup and margin. Markup's what you add on, margin's what you keep. However, again, it might seem fairly simple, but if you're not clear the difference between markup and margin and what multiplier you need to add, then again, get a little tool, a little calculator. We provide one for our clients that helps them add the correct multiple onto their costs. Number 6, here we go. Deliver efficiently and effectively. Now, once you've won the job, ideally at the margins, it's now up to you to deliver it effectively to keep those margins. So you're about getting the customer and keeping the customer and keeping them happy. So you want to make sure that the communication is effective. One of the black holes of lost profits in any business is a lack of clarity and communication between the office and the team on site, and then also with the customer as well. You know, be prepared to review and openly look at the way that you communicate and take responsibility for any poor communication or breakdowns that happen. Do it right the first time. You know, one of the things that's I think really important is that you educate your team on how your business makes money and also loses money. It's a very simple conversation, but if your team, here's an interesting, it's a bit of a side note here. I'm sure that some of you have got employees who think as a business owner, you are rolling in it. You may be turning over hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year, and your team see the value of the work that you're doing. But you know the truth, and the truth is that you're not actually keeping a hell of a lot afterwards. So the key here is to educate your team on how your business makes and also loses money. You know, for example, what does gross profit actually mean? What does gross profit mean to you? And how do your team understand what gross profit is? And how also your gross profit is impacted by delays, poor quality work, wastage of materials, lazy employees. And once they start to understand that, they may respect the situation. And by the way, if you don't share it with them, they'll make it up anyway. Here's the truth. If you don't share it with them, you don't have to share them maybe your net profit, but you may want to share exactly how your business generates gross profit and why that number is so important. Complete job reports as soon as possible. If you've got employees who aren't filling in their job sheets or their software on a daily basis, they're waiting till the end of the week, that's going to cost you, guaranteed. Invoice promptly. You know, one of the things you want to make sure is that as soon as those job reports are done, you invoice promptly, and you also want to automate your debtor follow-up, because even though there's not a hard dollar cost to following up invoices, the delays invoices or following up your debtors, there is a cost because it's time, it's energy, and it's an overhead which could be spent doing other things like customer care, for example, and therefore your profitability is leaking. So there's just a snapshot of some of the ways that you can deliver effectively and efficiently. Also, here's another one on that is know your capacity. What is the maximum amount of work you can manage with maximum gross profits with minimal hassle and high employee well-being? We're moving into the busy season. I want to get it done by Christmas season. And what I see historically is lots of businesses take on extra work. They say yes when they should be saying no. It compromises the quality of the work that's done. It compromises the well-being of their employees. And when you fit too many jobs in with not enough quality people doing the work, your profits will leak, and they will leak, and they will leak, and you'll come to Christmas burnt out, frustrated, tired, with no money in the bank. And I know that because I've seen it every year, unfortunately. Some people need to go through that 3 or 4 times to recognize they need to do things differently. But it's a historical attribute of the trade and the construction industry. My request is don't let that be you. Okay? Choose these last 3 months to go into Christmas doing quality work at good margins, having your team enjoying the journey, so that you don't get to Christmas tired and cranky and spending 2 weeks recovering, that you get to Christmas in a good space and you can enjoy some quality time and rest and recovery with your family, or whatever you choose to do. All right, couple more to go. We've got to get quality systems and communication structures in place. The first one there is meeting structures. It said an hour meeting once every fortnight or half an hour once a week can save a day of chaos. Make sure, just like a football team, they meet before the game. They meet at quarter time, half time, 3/4 time, and they do a review at the end of the match. Set up some structures in place to look at your communication and planning. Create checklists and procedures Make sure that you document how you want things done, when you want them done. Checklists are the simplest way. You don't need to be full-blown procedures or systems, but just get some checklists in place for quality assurance, for client meetings, for your estimating, for your invoicing, for your office processes. Deliver consistently and consistency. Provide training all the time. One of the things you need to take on board if you want to have quality, skilled people in the future in your business, what are you going to train and develop them in? And the key thing is a quality, successful business is boring. It's boring to put processes in place. It's boring to work on these parts of your business. You don't get immediate gratification, but the outcome is amazing profitability. John is one of our clients. He runs John Tucker Constructions. He used to spend every Friday afternoon with his apprentices on site and even some of his more mature team, training and developing them so that he could free himself from having to be there on every job. So he got to the stage from just running one job and being there on each job all day to running multiple projects where he could just spend time going around checking in, making sure the guys had everything they needed, and then the rest of the time building his business, working on his relationships, doing his quoting, and making sure the business was progressing as well. The last part here is measure to monitor closely. What do you need to track in your business? Now, as I said before, if you don't track, you can't measure, and if you don't measure, you can't manage. So what are the measurements you need to keep in place to monitor profitability? So you want to set some what I call winning metrics or measurements. You may have heard of the term key performance indicators. I like to call them winning indicators. So how do you know whether you're on track or off track? So the key thing here is track certain things. Number 4, there's track your capacity. So if you've got guys who you're paying regularly, like 38, 40 hours a week, of those paid hours, how many of them are actually chargeable to a job or a customer? You need to track what that capacity is and obviously get as many of those hours close to the maximum possible. We had one customer he started working with and couldn't work out why he wasn't making the profits that he deserved. Well, when we started tracking his capacity, what was recognized of the 38 hours, probably only 25 was billable to the customer. The rest of the time was being wasted doing non-billable travel, going back and doing rework, poor efficiencies on site, and therefore we needed to shift that up. If you've got project work, again, making sure as much of the time spent on a larger project is billable work. You want to track your gross profit per profit center, and your project is a profit center or a vehicle is a profit center. So if you're doing construction work and larger projects, that's what you need to measure. If you have a vehicle on the road with 1 or 2 people in that vehicle, that also is a profit center. So at the end of every week or at the end of every project, you want to be able to say, okay, this is what that vehicle made, total income. What did we keep from that as well? And again, you can't improve anything when you don't have any data. Just start measuring that. And you want to measure downtime and faulty work. What is that costing you in your business as well? And aim to minimize that over time. So Jane Krista run Fully Wired Electrical, great couple as well. And one of the things that we worked with Jay on was making sure that his capacity, he does a lot of service and maintenance work, was aiming to get his billable hours up. Of the 38 he was paying his team for, we needed to get to as close to 35 to 36 of those hours was actually billable to a customer. So we refined his processes, we got some good software in place, and at the end of the process and the time working on that little project with him, he was really being able to bill out 92, 93% of the paid hours to a job or a customer, which was terrific. And finally, in this little process, we want to review and respond. So, every week or every month, how did you go? Your actual versus what actually came in. What worked, what was missing, and what do you need to stop doing, keep doing, and start doing. So listen, just got a couple of little things to finish off on, but I'm going to have a little break here and love to check in with you guys and find out what has been valuable in those 8 steps. What do you see one idea that you could take on to improve profitability with your jobs or your projects or your team moving forward? I'll leave you with it for about 20 seconds and I'll be back. Love to see what your comments are. All right, just keep jotting your comments down as we go. I see myself as the engine of change. What a great quote that is, the engine of change. Good on you, Joey. Get trust from the customer, says Mirko. Yep, thank you. Nick Scott, price for profit and with a margin in mind. Setting profit goals for the year, says James. Keep the data and monitoring the jobs, says Christian. And turn unprofitable jobs away. More measure and monitoring of the performance, says Jenny. Good on you there. And not just work off hourly rates and mark up some other things. Just a couple more coming in as we go, ensuring the team understands and is on board to succeed. You know, as a business owner, here's what your goal. There's three things which we haven't really covered here tonight, but three things is that you need to create the vision for the business. Where are you going? You know, what's the team? What are the team engaged in? What are they up for? What's the journey? What are they excited about? Then you've got to manage the energy, which is about making sure that the team are aligned and working together cohesively. And then you want to coach and coach them to be the best they can be as well. So John's got there that the hardest part is understand the importance of these processes. Well, yeah, it's not easy. Some of these things are simple, but they're not necessarily easy. But, you know, I'd like to take on, if you're like a football coach and you've got some set plays, you know, I'm an AFL follower and I'm not a Richmond supporter, but geez, they've played a dominating game of football over the last, you know, 3 months, and they have some set plays. They can take advantage of certain situations. And here's, as the coach, it's not you know, getting permission from the players to run the set plays. This is the set plays we're going to run, and it's your goal then as a business owner to engage people and get them excited about these processes as well. Tracking billable hours to budgeted hours, making changes, and great. Listen, thanks Joey, Rory, and Elliot, and Mirko, and John for all of your comments there as well. And I know there'll be plenty more coming through. So here's what I understand. There may have been a lot of great ideas today. Take one or two, you know, 3 or 4 at the most, and see what you can do. What can you do simply? What could you implement? What could you make some changes with tomorrow? And that's the key. It's not about sitting on your laurels. You know, the shorter the time frame between the idea and the activity, the more likely you will to succeed. So one of the things that, you know, we often get asked is, with this, how does ProTrade work with individuals? And what we sort of find is there's some great information we've covered tonight, and I know some of you have found it really valuable. And there's lots of things you should do, but what happens tomorrow is we have something called the whirlwind or the tornado, and it's between that sort of 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever time you wake up, right through to about 10 or 11 o'clock at night. The whirlwind is out there. And as a business owner, we need to fight the whirlwind. It gets in the way. Life gets in the way of what we actually really want to do. And when that happens, on an ongoing basis, we can often wake up in the morning hoping we're heading out, doing the right thing, heading in the right direction. Yet unfortunately, we don't get the progress that we're looking for. So one of the things that we like to work with clients on at ProTrade is helping them get clarity. And what we'd love to offer those of you on the session today is an opportunity to get clear. And how we do that is, regardless of where you are in the country, we can have one of our team connect with you to have a look at where you are now. Where would you really like your business to be? If you could create a blank canvas and look at 12, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years down the track, what would you love to create? Remember, you get to choose that. You get to create that. And then what we'd love to do is give you some pointers in the right direction on what you need to put into place for that. So today, what I'd love to do is give those of you who are on the call an opportunity to have one of those strategy sessions. It takes between 60 and 90 minutes. It's a sit down, and the reality is, the worst case scenario is you get some clarity about where you are now, where you want to meet you are in the future, and some key steps to put into place. And if we can help you, we'd love to do so. If we don't think we can, we're going to definitely point you in the right direction. So I'm going to pop up a very quick questionnaire in about 10 seconds. And when it comes up, it says, would you like to find out more about how to have a strategy session? The answer is going to be yes, no, or if you're unsure, just tick unsure as well. And then one of the team will be in touch with you to arrange that with you as soon as possible. So I'm going to bring that to life right now. And there it is in front of you there. So would you like, oops, you should be able to see it. Please tick yes or no, or if you're unsure and you want to find out a bit more information, the guys will also be in touch as well. Again, team, I'm going to just leave it up there a little bit longer. Whilst if you've voted already, terrific. Just have a think about some of the things you'd like to take action on from the session today. I'm going to hold it up there just another 10 seconds. And we're going to close that right now. Beautiful. All right, so there's our topic done and dusted. One of the things I'd love to do is say thanks for taking time out of your day to work on your business. If I get the opportunity to meet some of you in person in the future, please make sure you mention that you're on one of the webinars. We are running a series of workshops, around the country over the next 6 months. And if there's anything you feel you'd like some guidance on, support on, you've got our contact details. Please be in touch. Our goal is to increase the success rate of all of the trade and construction business owners in this country, all those ones who are ready for the change as well. All the best moving forward. Thanks for being on this session. Take care, and most importantly, go out and make a difference to your team, your family, and be leaders of your industry.